Okay, so now let's go back to the lecture. Okay, the basically after you've done work breakdown and also the resources allocation, the next up thing that we are planning for is actually time. You cannot plan anything else, honestly. You cannot plan for cost, you cannot plan for quality, you cannot plan for anything unless you get your planning for resources done and unless you get your work breakdown done. So planning for resources, once it's done, then you are actually up to the next stage, and we cannot go further before we get the time first. Okay, so time is basically the one of the major objectives in any engineering project, and it is about allocating a duration to each activity, and that duration will be used to build the final product. Okay, and that combination of duration attached to every single activity and sequence it in a way that flows the job from beginning to the end will actually be what we call a schedule. Okay, so why is it so important to do schedule first? Because basically you cannot do anything else before you do schedule. So you will analyze the duration of the activities that is needed. So with the resources that are available, okay, with the resources that are available, you know that the amount of time that will be needed to do certain activities. Okay, so I'll explain that in a while. So, and then the other thing is, once you got the duration ready, you need to know the sequence of the activity, meaning that some activities are very much prioritized, some activities are very much have to go first, some activity will come later. So, it's just basically like you're saying, it's logic, isn't it? You cannot build roof before you build foundation. It's the same thing. So a lot of time there is some sequence that is completely important to be sequential, and there are some sequence that will be parallel, meaning that things can be done together. So you need to get the sequencing right. Okay, so it explode that, so we explode, our whole list of work breakdown is going to be so damn long, so how are you going to explode that? You really need to know which activities are going to go first, which activity is going to go next, and which activity will be joined with the other ones, and which activity are don't. We will not join at all. Is there any conflict between each and every one of the activities that you've already analyzed? So doing scheduling actually help you to look into that. And of course, the analysis of every duration, that duration will be closely related to resources, you see. So you need to resolve any time and resources conflict before you can move on to confirm that particular duration. So with all these constraints that are available and the sequence that you need to think of, and also the analysis of the duration, basically your schedule will actually make you think. It's a planning activity that makes you think. You need to think before you actually do anything. Before you go to the site and say, oh, you must finish this in 2 weeks, you must finish this in 10 days. We cannot simply say that. That is the purpose of schedule. It's a well thought through thing, and some techniques in project management are very simple, but actually it makes you think. It's that simplicity and that processes that you need to go through to make you think, and that thought process will actually mature the whole idea of the project progressing, you see. Otherwise, we're doing a lot of ad hoc conflict, and we don't think about the potential conflict. We're doing a lot of ad hoc management here. So meaning that when things comes out, we resolve it. We don't think ahead, you see. So this one here, the importance of scheduling is actually make you plan. It makes you think. It makes you think about the potential conflict between time and resources. It makes you think about potential constraints, such as certain activities must finish because of external reason, because of external constraint, like your subcontractor only have that time slot, and some of it is actually you have a very narrow time band because of external reason, like site, other site that needs the facilities, and then or government will actually impose certain things. There's a lot of these constraints available, and there must be a certain must start and certain must finish time, and there must be certain activity that must finish within certain given time. The example that I can give you is, there's just once I did a project, to lay some pipes from Kuching Samarahan roundabout all the way up to the Samarahan roundabout, the one that is after Unimas. And it's huge pipe, and the constraint was actually 6 months to finish that stretch, and it was a really bad constraint because it was a very bad thought through program in the sense, because even though there's a time constraint, the constraint is because they need to supply water to the Jantong Institute, you see. So it makes the constraint was placed there, but I think that wasn't well thought through, because with that stretch of a long stretch with the site condition, 6 months is going to be quite impossible. So it makes the planning very unrealistic in that sense. So even though you have some narrow time band or certain things that must happen, you must actually think about it before. You must actually think about the realistic bit of things, you see. So in terms of scheduling, we strongly makes you think that it must be realistic, you know. So schedule can be used, it must be practical, it must be realistic, it must be doable. So these are the things that I actually emphasize. In my research also, I've also emphasized a lot on planning of scheduling. Because why? If you don't plan properly, you're going to put up a very unrealistic schedule, and that cannot be done, you see, and then there will be delay, because in the first place, the plan that you put up with is going to be the basis of that relationship, the basis of the ending is what you want to see how it ends. But if you put up a very unrealistic environment in the first place, there's no way how good the project manager is, you know, that you can't wave magic, you know. Rome is not going to be built in one day, you know. So you cannot walk the walk because the initial plan is wrong, you see. So we have to be very careful of that. So I think a lot of project delay, people blame it on contractor mismanagement, people blame it on client late payment. Yes, that is true, it is true. There's a lot of reason in terms of bad project management that causes the schedule to be delayed. But we have to realize that if the initial bit is wrong as well, it means that the baseline is wrong, you know. It means that whatever that you set up is wrong. So how do you actually going to get a positive result from a very negative wrong, you know? This is not negative becomes negative, you see. It's not negative becomes positive. So it is actually negative will be negative, you see. So even if you have a very negative plus positive kind of management towards the middle bit, the controlling bit, a positive controlling environment, but your initial planning is negative, then you're still going to get a very negative kind of ending, okay? But you may get a very positive ending that is only subjected to the management of the team that is really superbly good, you see. So we have to be very well aware of this, you know, before we move further. The idea of planning for a schedule is actually realistic. You have to make it realistic. So the idea here is, I need to emphasize, is we need to plan because we need to plan for schedule first, because everything else will be based on schedule later, okay? And you can only do that after resources planning. And then why is planning important? And then after that, what can we use schedule for? Okay, these are the why schedule must be realistic, it must be practical, okay? And then how we can use schedule for, okay? Thank you.